Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features X-Men Omega, cover dated June 1995. So this is the climax of the Age of Apocalypse, and fittingly enough we have Magneto facing off against Apocalypse on the cover. And the cover is, interestingly, by John Romita Jr. and inked by Klaus Janson. So these two otherwise weren't involved in the Age of Apocalypse, so it's an interesting choice to have them handle the cover of the climactic issue rather than Joe Madureira and Tim Townsend, which is what one would be expecting since they handled the first cover of X-Men Alpha. And it also puts me in mind of the fact that Romita Jr. has done a very good job here in translating into his own style the various costumes of the Age of Apocalypse characters. Everyone from Rogue there to, of course, Colossus, Sabretooth and Wildchild and the rest. It's an excellent job. And it puts me in mind, if you're going to have him do the cover, why not have him do the interiors as well? That would have been interesting, because the interior artist is Roger Cruz, inked by a variety of different inkers. And here and there the work is decent, but overall it's not as good as maybe I would have wanted it to be. And that's what puts me in mind of maybe why not have asked John Romita Jr. to handle the gig. But there you go, it's one of these chromium foil covers again. And I really like the look of them. I think they come out of the bag, the bag and board storage treatment, just looking as new as they were the day that they were pulled off the comic shelf or rack. They just retain this fresh look. They're nice. I mean, of course, what they do is they jack up the price of the double length issue, but they're nice, and they still are nice, almost 30 years later, in my view. So here we are, open it up to the splash page, and our focus is on Magneto, the man himself, and he's looking there injured but with determination, and somebody's telling him, fall down, Magnus, make it easier on all of us. So he's standing over a boneyard of the dead, culled by Apocalypse and his henchmen. So a double page spread here with the creator credits. Magneto, defiant, as I said, all across this double page spread, but this character here with, by this point, a familiar helmet, even though it's in silhouette, saying to Magneto, if he's promising to fight for his cause with his dying breath, let's find out. So he attacks him here with some kind of energy attack. The creative team, the Amazing X-Men in Endings, Omega. Story Scott Lobdell, but the dialogue by Mark Waid. I don't like Mark Waid's dialogue, I'll be honest with you. There's something glib about it in places, and I know some people would say, well, isn't Scott Lobdell's dialogue glib here and there as well? But I think Lobdell's dialogue, can move between different moods of seriousness, tragedy, comedy, whereas Waid's, there's something about it that is just a bit, basic. And here and there, the tone is off as well. The rest of the creative team, pencils by Roger Cruz, inks by Bud La Rosa, Tim Townsend, Carl Kazel, Harry Candelario, Scott Hanna, and Al Milgrom. So what a row of different inkers there. And that's an indication that this thing was inked at speed. The pencil pages handed off to the inking team in order to get this to the printers on time. The rest of the creative team, Richard Starkings with the Comics Craftmen for the digital lettering, and colours by Steve Buccellato with Electric Crayons as his digital colouring studio. So excellent colouring on this issue, the lettering too. Let's continue with this opening scene. So of course the figure in silhouette turns out to be Holocaust, and it's very clear that Roger Cruz studied carefully Joe Madureira's design for Holocaust, and he does a very good job on Holocaust. So Holocaust gets the better of Magneto there, you can see that. And this is a nice anchor image of Apocalypse on top of his throne, and of course hovering above this hill of skulls. And there's his factotum, his personal assistant Rex. And he's asking Rex, is everything in place below? Yes, my lord, the trap has been set. So this takes Magneto by surprise. What trap? He's thinking. So Apocalypse gets up off his throne. Nice upshot there, even though there's quite the focus on Apocalypse's crotch there. That's a little bit unintentionally humorous, I think. I like the lighting, by the way. Last thing I'll say about this shot. The uplighting here and the cast shadow on the back of the headboard of the back of the seat. So Apocalypse says, of course, Magneto, you don't think for a moment that I'd let you die alone without your beloved X-Men at your side. So Magneto says, you're fooling yourself, Apocalypse. He continues to be defiant, which, of course, that's what you want from Magneto, and this heroic version of Magneto in the Age of Apocalypse. He says, the X-Men won't risk everything we've worked for just to save me. Count on that. Apocalypse has a different trap in mind. I have, he says. Must you remain self-centered to the bitter end? I have my trap, Magnus, but you aren't the bait. You think you have secrets, you're wrong. Once my Madri siphoned Bishop's memories, I learned your biggest secret, that there is apparently a world beyond the one we know. A world, or better yet, a timeline, that would have been, in your words, brighter and more hopeful, had history run differently. The Shadow King has seen glimpses of this world. He's told me the most important thing about it. It is one in which I do not rule. Your ultimate goal is to somehow fix history, undo all that I have done, even as I stand on the cusp of total world domination. I can hardly let that happen. In fact, I can make it impossible. And Magneto realizes there you can't without the Macran crystal. So, the Macran crystal is the nexus of all realities. The X-Men will come, Apocalypse says. Magneto, not for you, but because they believe they can use the self-regenerating crystal to repair time. So here it is, and it's guarded by the Infinites. And then Apocalypse knocks Magneto out. They will die, I will win. Congratulate me, Magnus, he says. So, this is Apocalypse's endgame. And here we get a double-page spread of the ruined Manhattan and Angel, who has decided no longer to be a middleman, taking neither the Apocalypse's side or the side of the humans and mutants who resist Apocalypse and challenge him. So he alights here on the in one of the structures of the holding pens for mutants, and he's come to find his partner Karma from his club Heaven. So he attacks the Infinites and he finds Karma, but she's dying. It's a little bit unclear here, the storytelling, where we've got this speech balloon emerging from this unclear rubble. It looks like it's the Infinite, the armor of the Infinite that he shot, but the tail of the speech balloon is emerging from it, and it turns out it's Karma. She underneath the Infinite. It's just a bit unclear there. And she says, after all you taught me about wheeling and dealing, I heard Apocalypse for free. And she dies. So the Angel thinks, you see, I don't like this too, all this narrative exposition from Mark Waid. No, thinks the Angel, not for free, never for free. There's always a price, and Apocalypse will pay this one dearly. The Dark Lord thinks himself safe. After all, in the sanctity of his stronghold, he cannot be touched, or can he? This is all superfluous. You could do away with this and just tell the story a little bit more smartly, I think. Now, here we get double-page spread again, but we got to turn the comic sideways. And I'm very clear on who is doing the inking on this particular double-page spread. It's Tim Townsend, and he does a really excellent job, as you'd expect from him. And he also takes a little shot at Roger Cruz. So you see here a little bit of graffiti on the wall. Tim was here, right? Okay, fair enough. And over here, it says Joe rules. So Tim Townsend making clear who his favorite penciler is to ink, and also maybe what he thinks of Roger Cruz swiping from Madureira and imitating his style as well. But having said that, Madureira does a decent enough job here imitating Madureira's style. It's not too bad. And there are other pages inked by Tim Townsend in the issue. One or two more that I'll point out to you as well. But no more of that graffiti. But he snuck that in because he knew those pages weren't going back to Roger Cruz. So we have names there for readers of all the different characters, including perhaps if you didn't pick up all the different miniseries, so you'd know who everybody was. So they're getting ready for the final battle. Let's turn this one back to the regular format. This is a good page actually by Cruz. There's some good storytelling going on here, and I like the use of the silhouettes and shadows as well. So here we have Rogue saying, "We'll ask questions later, just let's move on and be glad for once that luck is smiling on us, because there's no infinites guarding the facility that they're busting into." And Colossus here, he's been going a bit mad over, in the course of Age of Apocalypse. He's a darker, grimmer version of the Colossus we know from the Prime reality, and he's losing it. So he's there saying, "You're not about to risk my sister's life on a mission fueled by fortune, Rogue. I demand to know what happened here." So his wife, Kate Pride, looking on there with some concern, but saying nothing. And here Gambit stealthily has located Dark Beast and says maybe this one has some answers. And here's some of this kind of little bit bizarre dialogue that Mark Waid has come up for Dark Beast. He says, "A little cough, little of both, heaven help me." Why would he say that? "The prisoners, they rebelled. I thought I was the god king of their world, but I was blinded by pride, and in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king." That doesn't seem like the kind of dialogue that Dark Beast would actually engage in. It's Mark Waid shoehorning into what he's saying here, what happened in X Factor, Factor X number 4, and then linking to this anchor image of Cyclops and Jean Grey leading these humans and mutants from the pens to safety in Manhattan. So, yeah, I don't like it from Mark Waid there. This is a little tribute. It's kind of, once I say it now, you'll probably see it. It's a tribute to John Byrne's cover of Uncanny X-Men 137, The Fate of the Phoenix. And what we have here is just more of this exposition here, explaining everything about what's happened up to this point. And there's somebody following them. That's the key one here. And look at that marking on the face. It's either camo paint or tattoo on the face. Who could that be? I like that image there. And this is pretty good by Cruz, to give him credit when credit's due. Now, there are a few pages in this double length bookending issue that are not as well done, and this is one of them. Like that upshot angle there on Gambit, it makes his eye look as if he's almost like a transformer, like a robot. That's not well done. But what they see there, and it's a little bit unclear in the art actually, is Angel in silhouette, and he's got explosives strapped to his body. Basically, he's on a suicide mission. He goes towards the force field generator, which protects Apocalypse's stronghold, and he blows himself up. And then, we have this. This is fairly, there's some, very unsentimental bits of exposition in this issue as well, where the tone is off. Warren Worthington will not be mourned, but his sacrifice will allow a new player to enter the arena. Now, that new player is X-Man. His name is Nathan Summers, and he's come seeking vengeance. Vengeance for Forge. So another decent enough shot here of Apocalypse. And Apocalypse gets some bad news. "My liege, our Southwest Kingdom, it no longer exists. It's all gone, all gone." So Apocalypse is taken by surprise here now. And what has happened is, we're going to get the explanation from Rex. And also, it reveals here that the Shadow King was not killed at the end of Excalibur #4. He survived, and he's now possessing this particular monstrous creature. Rex, what is the Shadow King ranting about? So Rex says, it's true. Somehow the Eurasian High Council managed to set off their bombs from within North America. The entire Midwest is now a radioactive crater. So Magneto's horrified, and Apocalypse here is thinking. The question, Magnus, is rather, what must we do to retaliate? So he's got a plan, and he orders Rex to expand the seawall defense grid across the Atlantic now. Rex says, my lord, the consequences are all part of a grander design. Go. So Apocalypse is done gloating over Magneto, so he hits him with a blast there, and he's about to kill him, it's implied, but instead he's attacked by, well, who is it? It's X-Man, his nemesis, and he says that he is Apocalypse's nail in the coffin. You took away everything I cared about. I'm here to return the favor. So Magneto says, and again, it's more of this on the nose dialogue from Mark Waid. You are the one. Like, he's the savior, the messiah type in this Age of Apocalypse universe. The very mutant Forge promised he would someday deliver to me. And of course, X-Man is confected, so to speak, if that's the right word, from the DNA of Jean Grey and Scott Summers. So X-Man tells Magneto to stay out of the fight. It's not his anymore. But Magneto puts on his helmet and he says, think again. I like that. That's a nice shot there of the pair. But the perspective is off here. It looks like that Holocaust and Apocalypse, they're just standing around looking at this. It's not dynamic. They're just kind of popped here in the bottom of the panel. And it just doesn't work as well as it might otherwise. So Magneto and X-Man are going to team up against Holocaust and Apocalypse, and that should be a cool fight, and indeed it is. And then here, this is interesting, you get to see Roger Cruz's version of Chris Bachalo's design of these trolls, these two-headed trolls from Generation Next. And they're surprised by the arrival of Blink and the X-Men. And in the dialogue, we learn that they're taking Dark Beast with them as well. So he's there, even though we can't see it in the artwork. So that is Mark Waid like covering up for a deficiency in the artwork from Cruz. And again, this looks like another page that was maybe a little bit rushed from Cruz. And here we have Destiny, who's been brought from Antarctica by Nightcrawler. And she now finally gets a look at the Macran crystal. And she gets to see that, yes, each facet of the vast gem reflects a sliver of history from a timeline not hers. And she knows once and for all that every word of the mysterious bishop's story has been true. So, Quicksilver takes charge. He says, we'll choose a team to escort you into the crystal. She said, no, only we three can go. And that is Ileana, her, and Bishop. For only we three no longer have counterparts in this other reality. So Quicksilver puts it together that could be only the case if they're dead in the other reality. And in Bishop's case, it's a little bit complicated, of course. So Colossus here in the background, he's not happy about that. He's got this pathological concern for his sister's well-being. Well, it's normal fraternal, but like to a pathological point. So they haven't time to lose. And then this is actually a really good splash page. Again, I will give credit where credit's due. A nice splash page from Roger Cruz of Holocaust and X-Man smashing through the stained glass windows of this church. They appear to be in some kind of church or temple of Apocalypse. And that's nicely done. Really nice. And then we get this little quiet moment here where between Magneto and Rogue, where they're reunited. And Magneto tells Rogue not to interfere in the fight between X-Man and Holocaust. The boy does what he must and affords us time enough to show the same courage. And she asks him, she's delighted to see him, of course, and she says, you're alive. That means we're going to be okay. Tell us what to do quickly. And that will prove poignantly ironic that they're going to be okay. But he says, and this is interesting, no more orders. Our actions are no longer mine to choose. Reality crumbles. We have but one chance to salvage one world, not our own. A world that should have been. And that chance, little one, he says to Ileana, lies solely with you. I cannot command you to help us. I can only tell you that we cannot create this better place without you. That's a nice panel there. And the spotting of blacks is well done, and the casting of shadows. And this one is inked, I'm pretty sure, by Tim Townsend. So, Ileana asks a question of Magneto. This world, sir, is it a place where there's no sugar man? And he says, a place where she says, a place where little girls like me won't have to be afraid. He says, I believe so. I believe it with all my heart. Do you promise? And he can't make the promise. Colossus gets it. But Bishop steps in and he says, here's what I can promise. I can promise that in this other world there's hope. Hope that by working hard enough, reaching far enough, others like us can someday rid that world of the fear and prejudice and hatred that claim this one. This I swear to you. So Ileana concludes, then I'd rather have hope than nothing at all. That's an interesting design choice here to have everyone in silhouette, including Dark Beast there as well. Now, then they're interrupted by a crash, and it heralds the arrival of, it's the stronghold is coming down around them. So the place is collapsing. So the X-Men go into action against these trolls that have come to attack them. And then we're outside in Manhattan. We're at the... my brain isn't functioning at the moment. What's the name of it? The Brooklyn Bridge. There you go. And Jean realizes that they're too late. The bombs they've unleashed the bombs. That's why she went to North America, to try and get as many humans and mutants out as possible. And Cyclops asks her, are you certain the skies are clear? But she has felt the psychic backlash of 1 million Midwestern victims, and knows that the same nuclear destruction that claimed them is only a horizon away. So in desperation, she blankets the sky with a telekinetic shield that may hold the bombs back. In her intensity, oblivious to the bombardier falling from below. So of course this is Logan. He's arriving by parachute. And here we go back to the fight between Holocaust and X-Man. And this is interesting. X-Man unleashes 100 psionic spikes, but they don't look like spikes in the digital coloring. But it takes out Holocaust for a short moment, where X-Man calls him a loser and moves on to the main event, which is of course Apocalypse. This is a pretty decent spread here from Roger Cruz, and I'm pretty sure that he's looking at Bachalo's drawings of Colossus for this, because the anatomy here is less Joe Madureira and a little bit more Chris Bachalo. And look at this little disgusting creature, Sugarman, hopping out of Colossus's boot, which is where he hid himself at the end of Generation Next number 4. He's sniffing around there, and though he may not look very particularly bright, he knows a lost cause when he sees one, and without a pause dives towards the heart of the crystal. So he's going to turn up in the prime reality. Then Colossus is running towards the crystal. He wants to be by his sister's side. Iceman tells him, you're going to have to go through me, and he just smashes right through him. That's not going to take Iceman out for the count, because Iceman in this Age of Apocalypse reality really is an alpha level mutant, and he'll be able to reincorporate himself no problem. And Colossus is stopped by Gambit there. He says, only way you're going to muck things up and that's over our dead bodies. So the scene switches back to Destiny at the Macran Crystal. We see aspects of the prime reality, various characters who have been so very different here in Age of Apocalypse, including Havoc there, and Angel, of course. And she sees that this is as far as she goes into the crystal. The next step is to be taken only by Ileana and Bishop, So Ileana, first of all, imagines a doorway. She imagines it opens, and Destiny counsels or tells Ileana that she's not to go through. It's only for Bishop to go through. So he does, and then the scene switches to the Eurasian High Council. We've got Moira MacTaggart there and her husband Bolivar Trask. What's happened is Apocalypse's expansion of the seawall defense system it's crossed the Atlantic and turned into, it's no longer limited to defense, it's in attacking mode, and it's turning England to dust. So you don't really get the sense of that here in the visuals that Roger Cruz is giving us. So we have to get it in the dialogue and the narrative exposition. So of course, Apocalypse is an adherent to Lex Talionis, an eye for an eye, an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. So he says that is the law, but how much longer can it be enforced? Perhaps my centuries-old machinations have strengthened the wolves and the sheep equally. Will this then be the result of my life's work? Will man and mutant alike consume each other in? He doesn't seem too unhappy about it either. And then he's attacked. Now this is an interesting double page spread design with the panels there. It actually works. It's it kind of makes for a dynamic layout, and I feel it works. It's readable. So we go from here, Apocalypse getting blasted. It turns out to be Magneto. And this is a cool moment where Magneto draws from the rubble around him, and he constructs a battle suit on his body. And he says, and do you remember who won? Sorry, he says here, as a child I heard, he's talking here about, the philosophy of the strong succeeding over the weak, survival of the fittest. So he makes a reference there to Hitler, etc., etc. And he says, regarding Hitler, and do you remember who won the war he began? The weak, who rose in righteous triumph to overthrow the strong once and for all. Your day, Apocalypse, has indeed come. So he hits him quite the punch there in the jaw. That is a good panel there from Cruz. Now, of course, Apocalypse has a trump card, which is Strong Guy here with Charles, Rogue and Magneto's son. So he turns here. That's a good expression on his face, you were saying, to Magneto. And then the scene switches outside to Manhattan again, the Brooklyn Bridge, Armageddon -15. So we're getting countdown to the nuclear detonations in New York. So we have Logan here hitting the ground, and he's coming up behind Jean and Scott, but there's someone else there too, and it's Havoc. So he's the guy that was following them, and he blasts Jean from behind with his plasma blast. And he says, imagine that, big brother. The Summers actually had something in common after all. We both had an eye for traitorous redheads. So that's a reference to his clandestine, illegal affair with the nightclub singer Scarlett in Factor X. So then he tells his brother, don't hurry to get up. I'm going to take my sweet time with you. And this is a great little scene here. So there are some great moments in the comic now as we come towards the end. Cyclops, with just extreme fratricidal anger, blasts off his ruby quartz visor. Alex, you idiot. Jean's power was the only thing keeping the bombs at bay. Now, thanks to you, there's no more time. For God's sake, Alex is dying, the only thing we'll ever do together. And he says, not even, Judas. And he kills his own brother. And now that shot there, that is not cribbed from Madureira. That's a Joe Quesada shot that Cruz has swiped there. It looks good though. So Havoc's there gloating. I win at long last. So long as I can remember, you've had it all, and I've had nothing, but this victory is all mine. Snicked. So he is cut through the heart probably by Logan behind. Logan comes over to Jean, and they get this moment where she says to him, you were always in my heart, always. Through his pain, now this is Waid laying it on a bit thick. Through his pain, Logan remembers a myth of old of a beautiful bird that was so worshipped it would rise reborn from death's ashes. But though he desperately wants to believe otherwise, he knows that his beloved Jean is no phoenix. Oh, how ironic, yes? Now, minus 10 minutes. And here Bishop arrives in the past. Haifa, Israel, as David Haller is about to kill, Legion is about to kill Magneto. Of course, it all goes wrong. Bishop is trying to stop it from happening. And then he's grabbed on the shoulder by who else except for Bishop. And Bishop says to Bishop, I don't know who you are. Now, come on. Have you ever looked in a mirror before? Don't you? He says. And then we switch back to Dark Beast. Dark Beast is an interesting character in this reality. And he's there getting ready to make his escape plan. And because the person who was guarding him was Morph, as it turned out. I like that panel of him with his big grin and the way that his hair goes right to the top of his nose there as well. It's a nice visual for his face. So just as he's about to teleport, Quicksilver interferes with the program, and Quicksilver reveals that Dark Beast wanted to teleport into the very center of the Macran crystal. So he's only hoping that he was able to throw that off, but will learn in time that it didn't work, and Dark Beast does make his way to the prime reality. So here we pick up with Colossus again, and Gambit was trying to hold him back from getting into the Macran crystal, and Colossus in his anger stomps over and kills his own wife, who trusted him not to do that, and so she didn't turn intangible. So then he realizes what he's done, and he is in despair. And Gambit attacks him again and says, where she's gonna, make sure you be right behind her. With a shriek of metal, Colossus falls, as much from grief as from pain, and as shredded steel turns one last time into shredded flesh. You know, I guess we can't see that in this panel because of the silhouette that Cruz has used. Who turns up except for Ileana? She's back out of the Macran crystal, and she tells her brother, we did it. But then she sees, like, what's gone wrong here? And he says, forgive me. I thought I was the bravest of us all, and then I met you. I'm so scared, please give me courage and hold me while he's about to say die, but Quicksilver grabs her, so they never touch hands. So that's the, what would we say, like the poetic justice for Colossus, who proved himself to be a coward in the Age of Apocalypse reality, and a liability for the X-Men too. And in some sense, this is just deserts for having abandoned Husk to her fate as well in the power facility in Generation Next, number 4, at the end of that. So Quicksilver grabs Ileana and takes her to safety, and then we're 4 minutes to the nuclear blasts hitting Manhattan, and we've got Rogue. Oh no, yeah, it is Rogue actually, taking Strong Guy's power from him, and she says, "You want it back?" And he says, "Please," and so she punches him with his own power and kills him, and says, "That's for touching my boy Gene Trash." So Charles here, how old is Charles in this? Is he supposed to be 2? He looks like he's 5 here. He's saying, "Mommy, look at Daddy, what's he fighting for?" If he's 2 years old, that's a good question, but if he's 5, I don't know. So who's at fault here? Is it Mark Waid with the dialogue, or is it our Cruz drawing Charles looking too old for what he's supposed to be? And then our scene switches to it looks like actually, again, the storytelling is a little unclear here, where Apocalypse is fighting Magneto. For a heartbeat, Magneto goes down. So again, Waid is having to cover up for Cruz's storytelling, and Cruz would have got the plot from Lobdell. So Waid is having to put the dialogue and words onto the pages he's getting from Cruz. Okay, so I'll give him that much. Giving Apocalypse the chance to remove from hiding the original shard of the Macran crystal, first brought to him by Strong Guy. So he says it is his passage out. The shard hungers for his power. Once activated, it will open a passageway to the alternate time stream. So Apocalypse is planning to go to the prime reality, but he's attacked from behind. So we keep getting this flip-flopping all the time. Now he's attacked again by X-Man from behind, who takes the shard from him, kicks him in the jaw. You get a lot of that, a lot of punches in the jaw and kicks in the jaw in this issue. Then we're back in Haifa in the 70s. And future Bishop deals with old Bishop, and he intervenes just as David's about to kill Magneto. Now this page looks like it was rushed. Indeed, if I had to guess, I would say maybe that Roger Cruz did a hasty breakdown for the page and maybe handed it off to an assistant. I feel that Roger Cruz was using studio assistants to help him beat these deadlines. So Bishop attacks David and uses his, what he does here, it's explained in the dialogue. Unexpectedly, Bishop plunges David's side blade deep into his own chest, absorbing his energy, then unleashing it just as swiftly over and over again, creating a loop of psionic power that connects the two men and engulfs them in a torrent of horrific force that only one can survive. So this is going to fatally kill David. And at last, after all the pain, suffering and torment and cataclysm endured by a world, it ends in a whisper. Now this shot here, it's like Cruz is drawing Manhattan when it's supposed to be Haifa, Israel. You don't have those skyscrapers there. So that's another error that's happened in the art. So David here says, in your mind I saw tomorrow was terrible, horrible. This is a little bit funny, unintentionally funny what comes next. So David realizes, give my father his dream, never meant to screw it up. Bishop says, I know, David, but you did. You turned it into a nightmare, and now, as your own energies consume you, you pay the price for your folly. I too fade, and with me all memory of your crime. You had the potential to be the greatest of us all, David. Instead, twisted with hatred, you squandered your power. Look at the look on his face. And then he drives the final nail home. He says, your father would not be proud. Wow, okay. So no redemption for David at the end there. So, Iceman, who's back together. No, wait a minute. This is in Haifa still. It's Iceman in the 70s with Storm. Wow, did we or did we not just win without raising a finger? And Storm says, I have a feeling, Robert, that was the true war. That the true war was fought on a battlefield unknown to us. What that means to us and our future, I cannot. And then the time stream reorients itself. And David never was in 1970s Haifa. There's no one here. Do you remember being in any danger, Gabby? And she says, I know, all I feel really is a loss, almost paternal, that I can't explain. And Magneto here's got nothing to say in between them. Now, here's what we're really been waiting for. It's the climax. It's the denouement in Age of Apocalypse. And 2 minutes to Armageddon. So Magneto and X-Man fighting together are making progress against Apocalypse, but of course, who comes and gets involved again except for Holocaust? So he blasts X-Man from behind, but X-Man does something interesting here. He shoves the shard of the Macran crystal into Holocaust. And then we get the explanation. With all his strength, he jams it hard into Holocaust's chest, hoping to achieve maximum damage. Instead, he achieves a result most mysterious and most unexpected. Now, that's not explained, but what happens, of course, is they go to the prime reality. Pay them no mind, Magnus. They're finished. The endgame is yours and mine alone. This is no time to disappoint me. Fight back, says Apocalypse with that big grin on his face. Why won't you fight back? Now, I like this. Okay, so here we go. We're going to get something that we've all been waiting for and that is well worth the wait. I can't. I'm concentrating, says Magneto. What? No? And then this ripping starts happening. So what are we going to see? Turn the page. There we go. Magneto rips him in two. Now that is pretty cool, to be honest with you. That is really, really good moment and worth the wait. So Magneto says, for 20 years you've gone on and on about how only the strong survive. Tell me again, Apocalypse, just how strong you are. So Apocalypse, he dies there. That's it. And Magneto walks away in silhouette. We were the mightiest of our race, Apocalypse. Suppose we'd been on the same side. What a world that would have been. And now 1 minute to Armageddon. So the family reunited here. Rogue, Charles and Magneto. Magneto gives a big speech hoping that Bishop did his job and that we will be but memories by the time the bombs fall. Come to me, my wife, my son, let me love you before time slips away. So it's kind of affecting final moment here. Rogue says, everything depends on Bishop. Do you think he was able to set things right? We can hope. If we've earned nothing else, we have earned that right. And I would never have believed until I met you, beloved, that hope would be so dear to me. But then, a good man once gave me faith that all things were possible. He preached a dream of harmony and told me that any dream worth having was a dream worth fighting for. He taught me well. Had I these long years to live over again, I might have made other choices. I might have done things differently, but I would never have stopped fighting for the dream. This is your legacy, Charles Xavier. Now, as I hold my family to me before the end, I thank you for changing my life. But it looks like the bombs do hit them before the reality is changed. 0. So it's quite a poignant end to the Age of Apocalypse. Magneto, with his alternative life, living out Professor X's dream, having a family, a chance again at a future, but it all destroyed by the rise of Apocalypse, because with Professor X out of the way, Apocalypse was free to ascend. So there you go. X-Men Omega, the climax of the Age of Apocalypse event series. I think that this climax is of mixed quality. Again, I would say, why not have John Romita Jr. do the final issue? It would have been an excellent choice for the big moments and big scenes, and you would also have had much, much clearer storytelling. And then we mightn't have had to have so much exposition in the narrative captions and in the characters' dialogue. But there are some great moments in this issue, including, above all else, when Magneto rips Apocalypse in two. That's a pretty cool moment. So I do hope that you enjoyed this video review and commentary on X-Men Omega. Let me know what you thought in the comments below the video. If you liked the video, please like it in YouTube, and if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.